Go for it.
Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome to this week's episode. Dave and I are back in our normal locations. Today we talk through a bit of a recap on Vegas, what went on, our take-home points from it, how it was good to sort of catch up with new faces and some familiar faces. Talk a little bit about what our plans are for coaching moving forward, and just map out what the rest of the year looks like.
Good job.
Good job. Get into it. Let's get into
did it.
Let's get into the episode. You know that there has had to have been some sacrifice, whether it's time or nutrition or whatever it is.
Recording of myself talking about having a relationship with my chest.
I'm Ben Canning.
I'm Dave Kennedy.
And this is Hacking Health Podcast. To the normal episodes of We Hack Health Podcast.
Normal. I know.
I don't know if normal is the right term.
I don't know if normal is the right term. Because it's Monday, right? It's Monday, and we're technically supposed to be doing it last Wednesday, but we're in Vegas, and then, we all got busy. So, but it's good to be back and actually at home and talking versus you were gone for like a freaking month, right?
Yeah, 28 days total.
That's crazy, man.
But I'm back. I'm back in my own office, in my own space. I feel good. I came back to like a shit show of like just stuff to sort out. But I feel good to be back in my own space. Had a couple of calls to catch up with everybody today. Started writing out my list of like pretty much everything that I thought I would be able to do last week that I didn't get able to do because I was doing everything else of just being in Vegas. So getting that together, getting that put, just mapped out to sort of get straight into it from tomorrow, essentially. What about you?
I'll tell you, so it's Monday, which is the first day back from Vegas, right? In business day. And it has been a whirlwind of nonstop everything. So everything from, impromptu meetings to, folks at Black Hat and DEF CON reaching out, and I just haven't had a spare minute. I haven't even been able to pee for like the last 6 hours. So
that's your next move in the office, just under your standing desk, just get a urinal. You don't need to go in there.
They make these things called stadium pissers, or for people that go to like the stadium and you have like a bag it goes into. I'm just going to consider one of those for my standing desk.
Just so you can back-to-back calls.
Yeah, or it's my own office. I can shut the door and just have a bucket here, just but I mean, hey, good problem to have. And it's obviously a testament to success and everything that's been building up. And, it's funny because right after I get off this podcast, I have to go with Aaron to celebrate, I think it was a graduation dinner or I think maybe it's a birthday dinner or something on Aaron's side of the family. I haven't even looked at my schedule, but I know I have to literally at 5 o'clock, as soon as I get done with this, we're driving over to there that we're going to be there for. And
it's a dinner and it's a celebration of some sort. And you have the journey between there and here and there to find out. Yeah,
exactly right. I'm going to bring my laptop with me just to be able to knock out some more stuff just to catch up. I hate when I feel like behind. That's like a big thing for me. And, But no, it's good to be back. I had a great time in Vegas. We got to get at least one lift in at the Dragon's Lair, which is an incredible spot. I didn't get to go to my my Smash Fitness one, unfortunately, but definitely got my lifts in at the Cosmo, which Cosmo has a really great gym that I'm impressed with. So I been lifting there, but glad to be back here at home and getting everything in. And now we're starting our Get Big series for the next few months, where we're going to be pushing calories and doing well. And it's funny because Aaron brought home some donuts yesterday. So we had funny story real quick. We'll just dive into it. I get home from Vegas Friday night, and it's late at night. It's like 9 o'clock at night. Get home, and that's late at night, obviously for me. So get home, I'm exhausted, right? But I got 8 packages at the front, and getting kind of everything. I'm a type of person that likes to be at least somewhat organized. So I unpacked my bags. I have to unpack my bags the day I get home. Everything needs at least just put away for the most part. And then by the time I go to bed, it's 11:30, and I wake up, and we already, I guess, I had it planned that we're going to have 5 boys sleeping over on top of another boy. So 6 boys plus my 2 boys plus my daughter, and then obviously my wife. And so it was complete chaos here. I'm exhausted. I'm agitated. I just need some unwind time because it's been this crazy ass week in Vegas. And so then I of course I cook and everything. So I'm going to the store. I'm getting smash burgers and making smash burgers on the Blackstone. And, so it was fun, but I didn't have time to chill. So yesterday was my chill day, luckily, but I did almost PR yesterday on my deadlifts, so that was nice. I did not PR, but I'm damn there. So
Well, it's just as well like guy from the internet give you that real valuable advice. So the next time you go, to do it, you'll actually get the PR this time.
did you ever hear the Eminem one where it's like he's obviously joking, it's a skit, but it's like some dude that talks shit to him on social media. So he's like, like Marshall Mathers, Eminem is driving to the guy's house to beat him up essentially and have some words with him. He's like talking to his lawyer. He's like, I'm driving to his house right now to beat him up because he said some shit to me online. Like that's how I feel like with like unsolicited form feedback. My default reaction is always, well, show me you sumo deadlifting at 6'4", 554 pounds. I'd be very interested to see your form of technique. And of course, they never have video because they never do it. And it's funny because like you look at like Dr. Lane Norton or BioLane, who I follow a lot, and he is a shit talker, but he gets stuff all the time saying because he's a natural power lifter and very very adamant about it, competes and everything. And the dude deadlifts like 755 pounds. He squats 555 pounds. Like he's just crazy, right? It was 605 is what he did. Crazy numbers that the guy's pulling down. And then he gets people saying, by the way, the guy's one of the leading researchers in powerlifting and muscle hypertrophy and like all the latest studies. He's like published multiple peer-reviewed studies, and he's an innovator in the scientific muscle community. And you have these people that are like, oh, you're just destroying yourself by lifting heavy. He's like, what? Like,
no, the one dude was like, sumo's not even a real lift.
Sumo's not even a real lift.
yeah. It's actually funny. I was chatting to the guys across the week, and we were talking about like plans for DEFCON next year. And it's like we should have one event where it's just like you deadlifting and people in the audience giving unsolicited advice. See how long you last.
If you want to, how long does it take for Dave to snap and go off? Like this nice guy that everybody has known online for such a long time turns into a complete a-hole. How long does it take?
Yeah.
That's how you get it out of me, though. Like that's how you get me. Like it's just like, hey, I noticed your right foot pivoted, a half a millimeter a second. If you zoom in really closely and use AI to reconstruct, you can kind of see like the back of your foot. It's probably in proper form. Like, listen, it was close though, and there are some things that I can improve on form. And the good news is I have a trainer that looks at my videos and responds back with the improvements. And it's interesting because I can see a lot of those things now too. I'm like, it's actually funny. A trainer that I know very well actually told me when I sent him the video, he said, you need to, pin your shoulders back. And what's interesting is I've done a lot of research on this one, and specifically for tall people, pinning your shoulders back is actually less desirable because of the length of distance that we have to cover, being 6 foot plus, and the amount of space we have to cover lifting that up. So if you look at equidistances between somebody that might be 5'5" and 6'4", it's a very different length size, especially arm length and leg length. It's not just that we're 6'4". We have our wingspan is substantially larger, as well as our legs as well. And so if you're proportionate, if you roll your shoulders back, you're cutting off about that much space, that you actually have to pull and lift. And it becomes much harder to actually go and do that with not a lot of perceived or added benefits if you're maintaining, proper neutral spine and things like that. So, a balance in between is actually okay as you're going through and doing this, and actually much more desirable for folks that are, but this is someone that I really admire and respect, but he doesn't know the differences between, height, because it does change as you go through. And, my length of how far I have to spread my legs is different than somebody that's 5'5", because of how my hips work, right? My hips have to angle outwards, so my legs are longer, therefore, thus I have to have a longer stance. So, there's all these variables that go into place. But when you get these folks that are like, oh, I'm looking at you and, you need to do this and that and this, I'm like, no, like I would literally die if I did that. Like my hips would be broken.
Yeah, it's like, I was a trainer in the 1920s, and this is how we used to do it then. Thanks, bro. Perfect. Yeah,
thanks,
send me the video. Perfect.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think so. I mean, we'll not go any further into it, but instead of thinking about pinning your shoulders back, if you think about packing your lats down, it's a similar sort of movement.
Exactly right.
But it's the stability that you're looking for.
Basically, expanding your lats downward is what they said, to be able to get the tension that you need, consistently across the lift. Because if you do roll forward and you're jerking like this, you have that lack of tension as you're going up. Whereas if you expand your lats as you're coming, you maintain that tension. Look at you knowing what you're talking about. And I even researched the hell out of this. So Nice job. See, it just shows y'all that Ben knows what the fuck he's talking about. Appreciate the advice, other tall guy. So thank you.
No worries at all, dude. And as I said, when we were chatting back and forth about it, I think it's time that we sort of break down that lift, we move into new training block, and do some other bits that will help it, rather than just trying to brute force our way to adding PRs. Like anytime that you're at the level you're at with training, it's not necessarily just the weight that becomes the consideration. It's like those other little bits in between. And as we were sort of talking about again, it's probably time to focus a little bit more on your adductors, which I know that you don't necessarily love doing, but that will definitely help with it. So it's like,
let's
understand.
talk about that though. I have some exciting news here.
Okay.
I got some new equipment.
Okay. Good.
Ben actually told me I needed to buy these, Aaron.
I would agree with that. Yes, I would absolutely agree with that. But no, genuinely, like it becomes that there are other parts of the movement or other muscles that are the bits that are holding you back. So it's like take a sort of step back from it and then focus on these muscles, strengthening those, find out what the weak links are essentially, and then working on those to sort of rebuild the lift. To allow you to sort of progress a little bit further, because there will always be a weaker link, and once you can understand where they are and what's holding you back, then we can sort of reverse engineer the fix for it.
I think I said this in the last podcast, but I was, I've been doing, since we first started training, deadlifts and squats and different variations of those, and I tried conventional, sumo, Romanian deadlifts, you name it. We tried every kind of trap bars. And, I've kind of found my home with the sumo based on, the length of my body, as well as my previous conditions around lower back, injuries. So lower left specifically, just, through aging and, poor back and, sitting on a computer all day long and everything else that's come along with that, and military and everything else just compiled on that. But you look at, when I did the hip abductors and adductors on the abduction side, I noticed my legs were just like violently shaking as I was coming in, as my abductors were trying to kind of compensate for things that they haven't worked out before. And it was funny because I was complaining to Erin, I think it was like 4 days after we lifted, every time I'd bend down, I'd be like, she's like, man, you're an old man. I'm like, no, Ben had me doing things I don't normally do, especially 200-pound RDLs at that too. But, it was good to see that I still have areas to consistently try to strengthen and improve on and attack the muscles in different ways, as well as, hey, now we're at a different level here. Let's look at rebuilding, my deadlift and going to a different level here, right?
Yeah, for sure. And like it's finding those areas is key, because they're the things that are going to hold you back, and being okay with knowing that there are areas that are weak and need work is absolutely fine. And like I said, it comes back to sort of taking the whole thing apart and putting it back together again and rebuilding it out as a whole stronger lift.
When you have the same with RDLs, right? Your finishing move is the RDLs, and your goal is to get as strong as heck with that and to be kind of your biggest thing, right? And so
my goal is always just to be stronger than everybody else that's doing them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, same here. So I got a lot of work to do on the deadlifts, though.
How that will go. But yeah, same idea. I know what my limiting factor are on those, and I know what I need to do to progress it. And this will be a note for you whenever you're building up my training block. I think if I think back to whenever I used to do them quite regularly, whenever I used to work on the gym floor, my whole posterior chain was super strong for whatever way my training block was put together, and I think that's been the thing that has sort of held me back recently. It's like I haven't really put a huge focus on it.
Yeah.
I also haven't had consistently RDLs in my program for a long time. So getting that back up to some level of consistency, just having the lift in will obviously help move forward with it. And I've noticed as well, my grip isn't as strong as it used to be, again, probably just from not using it. So both those things combined, and having RDLs in, I do think there's the chance to really progress in them. Like I still have the strength there, I can still do it, which is cool. But to really progress in it, I want to sort of make sure that it's a big focus on that moving forward.
So TLDR, we're always improving, getting better, getting stronger, focusing on form and technique to ensure that as we go up, we're not destroying our bodies as we go along with this. And then, making sure that we're strong AF while also building muscle mass, right?
Yeah, pretty much. And I get asked this quite often, and you probably get it too. It's like, when we talk about health, it's not necessarily just about strength. Like, to an extent, it is because of the studies, obviously, that we've seen and we've went over again in terms of
Strength is
the
so
actual
critical.
correlation between strength and longevity. But
Real quick on that though, before you hit, like what's interesting now is that they're finding that strength training is substantially more effective in hitting both the cardiovascular side of the house as well as your longevity aspects, and it becomes more and more important as we age to be strong, to live longer, right, and to live a healthier lifestyle. So to me, resistance training, strength training is fundamentally the number one most important thing that you can do, aside from like sleep and nutrition and the healthy habits that allow you to be able to even accomplish that. It's one of the most important things we can do to live forever. I mean, not forever, but as long as we possibly can, right?
yeah, and I agree. And again, go back to the people who say, you're lifting too heavy, blah blah blah, whatever. It's like, I don't plan to lift at this level forever, but
Right.
I'm capable of doing it now, and I'm going to utilize it.
Right.
I like, there will be a time that I cannot do it, and I'll be pissed. So I'd rather do it as much as I can while I still can. And that's obviously why, yes, okay, I want to be strong, but I also want to be big. I want to be strong and look strong, not one or the other.
That's right. That balance to me is my goals, right? And your goals as well, to be, actively insanely strong, but also, look strong, to look good and strong, right? And I got so many compliments from folks throughout all of DEF CON of Black Hat, just Black Hat. I ended up bouncing before DEF CON to get home to the family, but just folks like, dude, you look absolutely amazing. Congratulations. I had so many people come to me and be like, you were life changing. Like in the airport, for example. If you're listening to this, appreciate you swinging by, but. Guys, like I don't really tweet at you much or anything like that, but I've listened to all your podcasts, I've read all your papers, and he's like, you've been able to change my progression, and I lost 100 pounds so far. The guy looked great, by the way, like fit, V-taper, and he's like, if you would have seen my picture before, you wouldn't even know it's the same person. So it was really cool to get stopped in the middle of an airport and say, hey, you changed my life, basically, and then keep walking by. And it was just such a great thing to see the whole movement of hacking your health. I mean, like, you were a mini celebrity in our community as well, but people coming up to you that you've never seen before, and people that you kind of know you personally, but you don't know them yet because they listen to the podcast and everything else. It was really cool to see the hack your health movement really take place. All the folks that got the tattoos. I think we have 9 in counting right now.
Yeah, I think something similar to that. Yeah.
And it's just incredible to see that, right?
Yeah, I agree, like 100%. It was the first time I'd been in a situation like that. Obviously didn't really know what to expect for the whole conference thing in general. But number one, to be
I tried warning you as much as possible.
I don't think there is. Like, you can't have a warning for the actual reality of it. You can't have a warning for it. But it was cool to be involved. It was cool to be there. It was cool to be so accepted. Do you know what I mean? Like, there was no I don't know. I just felt like I don't want to say I was at home, but I felt like I was just part of being there. And as you said, people coming up, I literally must have made it 10 feet from the front door to just under the sign at DEF CON. I got mobbed for stickers and t-shirts. But again, people coming up and just wanting to say thanks for what we do with the podcast. And again, they've been able to lose, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 100 pounds. Like life-changing things just from listening to the words that you and I say, right? Who thought that? So it was cool. It was cool to be a part of that. It was cool to see from the inside out. It was cool to sort of see how the whole thing's put together. It was cool, obviously, to go to the Trusted Tech party. It was cool to be in that torture gym and actually see not only clients come down, but people who are just there for the conference. And one thing I'll always admire is, people essentially coming to meet a stranger from the internet in probably quite an intimidating gym, maybe 5 or 6 miles away from where they're staying, just to get a training session in, or to have a conversation, or to have a consultation. So it was funny because what's his name? Jared, can't remember his second name, the big dude that we were introduced to in Dragon's Lair.
Oh yeah.
Jared Feather. Obviously we were chatting to him, and then he was back one day, and somebody, I think it was Randy, was like, "You're a big dude." He was a big fucking dude.
He's a big dude. He's a big boy.
And he sort of made a passing comment. He was like, "Oh, I have a lot more respect for what you guys do." And I thought that was kind of cool, given the fact that he, I think it's the guy, Mike, can't remember his second name, brother or brother-in-law, works in the security industry. So he has a pretty decent understanding of what it takes. And, for him to sort of make that comment as to respecting the change that they're making and the control that they're taking, I thought it was quite cool from their side. So it was good to sort of see, I guess, sort of see what we're doing here and actually see it in real life beyond just the client stuff and the stuff that we see
Online too, yeah.
day to day. So cool to be there. Absolutely glad that I went. And it definitely will not be the last time that I'm there.
That's awesome. Yeah. Listen, it's really humbling because, like, you know, my career has always been, you know, cybersecurity, right? And that's what I'm most known for, you know, building my career up through this industry. And, you know, it's cool to be a part of something that traverses cybersecurity too, that impacts everybody, right? So, you know, I had, you know, spouses come up to me and say, I listened to your podcast, or, you know, you've changed my husband, and those things, you know, so it was cool to see all of the different things that you know really transpired from the health movement, and why, by the way, it's so important, you know, in this industry. We leave such unhealthy lifestyles just sitting in front of the computer all day long, and the stress that goes along with that. And I don't think most folks realize that, you know, our brains are basically continuously crunching and you know, in taxing our entire body in a way that, you know, is continuously requiring output. And, you know, so it's funny because, like, someone had said to me, he's like, man, he's like, I go to work, and, you know, I get home and I'm just so mentally exhausted. The last thing I want to do is lift. I'm like, well, if you lift in the morning, you're actually going to,
you don't have to do it.
You're going to have to do it. And then you're going to feel great the rest of the day and more optimized as you go throughout the rest of the day. And he's like, yeah, but I'm not a morning person. I'm like, me neither, dude. Neither was I. I mean, if we first started with you, I was only training at night. Yep. And, you know, I started switching towards morning, and my gosh, what a game changer. It's just, you know, when we say we're not morning people, it's because we haven't trained our bodies to be morning people, right? It's the habits we've created to do that.
The thing of it is, if you say you're not a morning person, you're going to, but that's not going to change just by continuing to tell yourself that you're not a morning person. Is it going to suck whenever you try and transition to getting up early? Fuck yeah, it's going to suck, especially if you are getting up to do something you don't really want to do, and you've done it consistently for the week before, and your body's like, fuck you. Like, it is going to suck, but you can't just write it off being like, I'm not a morning person, so I'm just not going to lift. Like, shut the fuck up. That is a shut the fuck up and get on with it type situation for sure.
Yeah.
It was also cool for me to sort of see how many people didn't know about us and didn't know about the podcast and didn't know like what is it you're doing. And I think somebody thought it was something to do with like the medical side effect, and I was like, no, bro, like tracking your health, like you as a person, like it's not not a machine, like not a fucking computer. You were talking about you. And then
it's funny because, like, the connotation of hack your health also in the biohacking community has its implications too, right? And, you know, so like, well, no, we're not talking about biohacking, although it's a part of it. You know, it's more so the holistic side of looking at, you know, how does our bodies work? How do we optimize our bodies in a way that allows us to be happy, have energy as we age, you know, continue to be, you know, energetic and healthy in our lives, you know, and that could be, you know, biohacking in some cases, you know, especially around the hormonal optimizations and, you know, things like that. But, you know, at the end of the day, what we're talking about is how do you curb your lifestyle in a way that allows you to do all the things that you want to do. That's it. At the end of the day, like, we want you to be happier. We want you to be healthy. We want you to have the energy to play with your kids and, you know, be a part of their lives. We want you to do all of those things. Right. And it's about understanding, you know, how to even get started with those simple habits. I actually just saw a study that came out 3 days ago where they did a study on 5,000 steps, by the way, instead of the magic 12,000 number. And they showed that just by doing 5,000 steps a day had a substantial impact on cardiovascular health, weight loss, calorie burn, everything else. I mean, you know, it doesn't take rocket science to say, if I eat less and I move more and I lift weights, then good things are going to happen. And then you start to refine that a little bit, right?
It's not going to put you in a worse position. Do you know what I mean? You're not going to do those things and be worse off.
But we want immediate results, right? We want immediate things that are going to give us the desired, you know, instant click type of stuff we're looking for. And it's not necessarily going to happen, right?
It's absolutely not going to happen. I think that the other cool thing, and we can step away from this conversation here now, but I think the other cool thing for me, you know, I sort of had a bit of a realization if I'm going to start going to Vegas each year for Hacker Summer Camp, like that's a good stop post in the middle of the year to sort of recognize progress, whether it's personal, whether it's my own progress, whether it's each client who's theirs progress, whether it's progress from the amount of listeners in the podcast, whether it's business progress. Like, it's a good, this happens every year. This is where I was last August. This is where I'm at now. And I'm excited to see next year we'll be like, oh yeah, I was talking to you last year and I was able to do this and this. So being able to sort of see the impact of actually just being there and that specific week being the change in someone's life. I think it'd be cool.
Yeah. It was a cool. I mean, and it was good to like catch up with you to get like your experiences because coming from the outside looking in, I'm sure you've never experienced anything like
Absolutely
DEF CON,
nothing.
right?
Nothing.
We laugh about it because it's like holy shit, like
nothing like it whatsoever. It was cool though because like I got to hang out with the team and everybody was showing me some different stuff. And actually, one real cool thing was I got to hang out with the client Will, who he's basically spent the last 9 months building out the like the AI side of things. So just to actually hear him talk about what it is that he does was kind of cool. And actually again to sort of sit at the table at the Trusted Tech Trainer dinner, like I said to you, like I felt like I was in like an elite club of hackers. I was like, this is fucking cool. Like I don't know, but hackers and like geeks, quote unquote, and nerds get a bad rap. I'm like, these motherfuckers are cool. These guys control the world. Like fuck everybody else.
Yeah. It's such an interesting industry and community and everything else because you look at DEF CON, right, and it's overwhelming because it's at 4 different hotels. It's spread all across the board. There's stuff everywhere. But if you're in the industry, like there's something for everybody that specializes in hardware hacking or health and fitness or whatever. There's things for everybody to go and do, and I think that's what's so cool about this industry and how it's grown is that it's changed from a small group of hackers that you would think, in the basement of your, parents' house to like, this is a full-fledged industry and we all have our different strengths that we've specialized in. And, this is just kind of this health and fitness movement. It's just a kind of a component of that, of changing the narrative around you have to be unhealthy. And I think what, the previous president, I won't mention my name, but said something about, overweight or fat hackers or things like that, or something like the 500-pound hacker, I think was the term that was used. Like that's not the case anymore. We are not like the nerds with the glasses. No, don't get me wrong. Some of us are, but it's great. Whatever we decide to be, whoever we want to be, it's all accepted in this industry, and you can see kind of like a different breadth of that all across the board. And it's come a long ways. And I had a lot of fun because I got to see folks that I hadn't seen before, meet people and faces that I only have talked to online, see old friends. Get to hang out with my wife, obviously, which is great out there at the same time. Build team camaraderie with Binary Defense and Trusted Sec and my folks out there. And obviously get to hang out, with my good friend Ben and Ryan to get some lifting in and have some fun.
Shout out to Ryan. Like Ryan
is awesome.
Has spent
I love that
28 days with me back to back. And like I know that we sort of joked about it. I was like, at this point, I'm sick of myself. So like, I can understand like if you're sick of me and you need a timeout, like that's absolutely fine. But he was there. If I wanted to get up at fucking 4 o'clock in the morning to go and take a drone shot of the sun, like whatever I needed, he was there. I genuinely like. It's good to have him there because I have someone that I can bounce ideas off directly. Like he's right there beside me. I also know that if I don't have any ideas, he can just go and do it. Like he understands the assignment, so he can get it done. Like the one Wednesday night when we had everybody over to the Airbnb, he'd been mentioning this for a while. He's like, we should do like a cooking show because obviously every time that I host an event, I make tacos. He's like, we should do a cooking show. I was like, right, okay. So there's me fucking cutting onions, and he was putting a mic on me, and then like Todd came up and everybody was asking me questions, and it was great because it was like everybody who was there just sort of got a chance to ask me a couple of questions. I was asking them about their progress and about who they are and whatever, and they were just throwing random questions at me. And it's funny because obviously there's people who've been in that situation before, like Phil was there, Tyler was there, Randy was there, Todd. And then there was 2 guys. One guy, Ian, who had seen that morning, who literally only signed up the week before. So signed up on the Wednesday before, had a session with me last Wednesday, and then came to the Airbnb to have dinner with everybody. And then Dan, who's been in the group for a while. So they walk in and imagine there's me standing with the tank top on, answering questions, cutting an onion. There's a video camera looking right at me. They're probably like, what the fuck have I walked into? But it was cool because, like I said, everybody who was there got to ask questions. I think it'd be cool content and cool insight as well. But yeah, shout out to Rand because he's the one that shows the world what actually goes on. And like I said, he spent a lot of fucking time with me.
He's such a good dude. For one, he's brilliantly talented in what he does, the angles, how he gets things cranked out and knocked out.
There was one night he didn't go to sleep. He didn't sleep all night. He was like, "Oh no, you needed that for Wednesday." I was like, "Fuck, I don't need it for you not to sleep." Like, fuck me.
That's crazy.
But yeah, the dude, and even on the flight on the way home, like he was still putting the hours in. I was watching. what did I watch? Can't remember. What I was watching. I was watching some film. He was like editing videos. I was like, this motherfucker. But yeah, good dude. Couldn't do him without him. So shout out to Ryan.
Yeah, he's awesome. Ryan, you're the best. We love you, buddy. And then, so when we talk about moving forward, we're going to get into a discussion, I think, a little bit on the bulking side of the house, which again gets a bad rap. We're not talking about eating whatever he wants to. I was going to tell you a story about the donuts though. So the kids came over and Aaron ordered all those donuts. I'm like, you know what? I got the calories for this now, I'm pretty sure. So I'm going to go and eat this, and ate a donut. But I know it was your favorite, things in life. So I'm not a big sweets guy, but it was nice to be able to have a donut and not have to afford that. But what's interesting about talking about always improvement before we get into the discussion of kind of where we're heading next and all that good stuff is that I got my blood work back, and I was really kind of sweating it because when I didn't really share a lot of this publicly, but when I had the issues in Colorado, they did some CAT scans with contrast. Now the contrast stuff wasn't working great. Like, I guess my body basically just runs it through really quickly, and it's hard for them to capture like the light that it emanates to see everything. But they thought they saw some issues with my kidneys. And I was like, oh shit, like really? Like, okay, like what does that mean? And so they referred me to my PCP referred me to a whatever the kidney doctor is. It's got a weird name. I can't remember the name of it offhand, but the kidney doctor, and the kidney doctor's like, well, based on your levels, we have to take a look at and do some additional work to see if you have, kidney disease. I'm like, kidney disease? I'm like, man, how would that happen? I'm not like, doing a whole bunch of unhealthy stuff. And so my levels, though, if you look at the creatine levels along with BUN, those are the EGRFs, GFRs, I'm sorry, are ways of kind of looking at how well your kidney is producing. I got my levels retested just recently, right before I left for Vegas, which was good that I didn't do it right after Vegas. But
your levels of old fashioned are quite through the roof.
Yeah, everything's off. You're dying, basically. But what was great to see is that I stopped actually taking creatine, which can skew the creatine levels as well as BUN and everything else. And my levels came back to just absolute normal. And so I'm like, hey doc, what's this mean? He's like, oh, I think you're good. Okay, we're good. So like the whole scare was kind of a non-issue, which is great. But what I love seeing was that if you go through all my blood work, it does a previous comparison, of all of your different levels, and literally categorically every single thing improved on biomarkers on each and every one. Even my my ApoB, which is a good precursor of cardiovascular disease and atherosclerosis, that was well within line. But what I really liked was my testosterone levels were exactly where I wanted them, and my estrogen levels were exactly where I wanted them. It was like right below 900, and my estrogen levels were right at 25. I was like, that's a perfect spot for me. And I got it just dialed in, which is so cool to see. Like when you take into account these areas, things that could be a lot better. So it's cool that we're always just optimizing, making better. And even my doc from my clinic that I use, I'm just reading it here. He said, continue with current plan, exclamation mark, exclamation part. You're exactly optimal of where you need to be. It's been highly improved. Congratulations. What else did he say? Anyways, he said, great, great work, improved, looking awesome. So, just get that feedback back, from as well. I mean, again, it was already looking good, but continuing to get better is pretty sweet.
Yeah, and actually, I mean, I'm going to assume this, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that as my new coach, you'll probably want an updated blood sample panel. So I'll probably order one here so you have something to go by, or at least, I guess, another, like a marker, like a baseline for where we're at whenever we start to move into the next phase.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
Cool. I'm just going to order it here right now. I know America has all the things, but the one thing they do not have is the person can actually come out to my house and do it.
Well, technically you do. It's just in Vegas. So I found out that they have you can get obviously IVs and things like that, but they also will do full blood work panels for you in Vegas as well.
What a strange place to do a full
right?
panel.
I'm like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna get my Gonna get my blood work done here while I'm in Vegas. Good idea. Good idea.
Yeah, great idea. Yeah, so I'll get that ordered. That means that we've got something to go by, especially if we're going to start pushing things in the other direction. It'd probably be a good idea as to see where we're at with things.
Yep. So what else we got in the hopper as far as training? It's going to be fun to work on deadlifts. I'm looking forward to building your training program out and push you through some pain and agony. I got a new hip adductor and abductor combo machine coming, as well as hip thruster machines, which if you were to ask Dave of 2 years ago, I'd be like, you're effing crazy. Dave would never do that. But it's one of those things where, areas that you can improve on, right? And get a little bit better at, which I think is always what we're trying to accomplish. But what are you looking forward to as far as this next training block and where you're going with this? Obviously, aside from, having the best coach in the world, but, anyways.
I'm excited that it's going to be, I'm just excited because, as I sort of said last week, I'll want to be your best client. And I realize that obviously that will be your only client, but
it's kind of like when you have only one son and you're telling you're my favorite son, But,
yes, but what I mean is, like, I want to be told I'm doing a good job. I want to see. I'm not going to say everything that I taught you, but it definitely set you on the path towards it. So it'll be interesting to sort of see how that transpires into you coaching versus you being the client. Because obviously it's the opposite side. I'm interested to see whenever I have a good week what the reactions will be. I'll be interested to see when I have a bad week what what type of coach you'll be. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, it'll be interesting. I'm interested to sort of.
But what's been great is to hear. Well, first of all, know you as a person, but second, hear your feedback of like what you didn't like, not necessarily didn't like, but things that you would look for. In the train, you're kind of next generation of trainers, right? Not letting you
every week you're just like, shut the fuck up, check in, shut the fuck up and get on with it. Not shut up, get on with it.
Just shut 7 hours at the gym, if not go back. Like Kareen and Harper, you guys need to move to the gym with Ben because it's gonna be
shut the fuck up and get on with it. Okay, just that's it. Just that one sentence every single week.
What's his name? Papa Swoley. I'm gonna have him fly to your house and wait.
Throw his water in my face and tell me to get to the fucking
in your face. Well, there's this one I always watches on Facebook, and just this massive dude, right? He's like, the guy is like bigger than Hulk. Okay, I mean, just huge. And you just see him there, and he's got a shirt off, and his arms are so big that you go after this, and he's got this guy, and he's like basically sees his person he's coaching, he sees them eating like a McDonald's burger, and he starts walking and he rips the door off, and then he like slaps it out of her hands, and he's like, "What are you doing?" That's gonna be me. So
yeah, I'm not gonna feel safe. I'm always gonna feel on the edge in case you just fucking turn up. No, but I'm looking forward to it. I think I'm looking forward to having the structure. In terms of what I want to work on, I still believe that I want to work on legs and arms, and if that means I'm training legs and arms every single day, I'm okay with that. Like, I think you'll be hard pushed. I know there's jokes around, everybody gets the exercises that they don't like, but I think you'll be hard pushed to find that for me, because I'm pretty much okay with all of them across the board. Not a challenge. And you're going to just start programming like CrossFit workouts and like fucking barbell snatches and clean up and like shit that I just would never ever do. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that, like I said, and then I guess I'm just looking forward to seeing what progress we can make and sort of having it as a bit of a, I guess, experiment is the best way that we can name it.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be the longest period of time that I have gone on a consistent, calorie surplus. And maybe that's what we just call it from now on, is just caloric surplus.
I do call it a surplus. I don't like the B word, but everybody,
yeah,
I know what people
has some negative context with it, right? Because it's been abused so much, and our goal is slight, caloric surplus is to hit in that 1 to 2 pound range a week, with the intent of trying to maximize muscle growth and potential there. Human body wise, I think what you can only generate, 2 pounds of muscle per month. Is that, on average?
On the higher end, yeah.
On the higher end, right? That's like if you have like phenomenal genetics and, things like that, right? Without any assistance or anything else. But, if you're looking at, 2 pounds a month, and if you're putting in, 4 weeks, you're expecting 2 pounds per week, that's 8 pounds, which means, 6 pounds of that is going to be fat. 2 pounds of that is going to be, muscle, but that's going to be, optimized, to be able to accomplish that. So when you look at the staggered growth, what will end up happening is, let's just say, I'm at 3,000 calories and I'm gaining 2 pounds. Well, in 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks or 5 weeks, that 3,000 calories in order to maintain that 2 pounds or 4 pounds or 6 pounds, whatever it ends up being, ends up burning more calories. Thus, I need to start eating more calories to maintain that same level of 1 to 2 pounds per week growth. So it's just a math game, and it's measuring each day and being consistent with it, and making sure that you're staying within the same baselines to get to that optimal level of what you're doing. But at the end of the day, I mean, if I get to right now, I'm currently sitting at 224. So if I say 224 and I want to be 250, that's doable, right? But it's not gonna be 250. It said my goal is to get to 250. It's like, oh man, 250 pounds of muscle mass. Well, yeah, wish.
Yeah, maybe
but
in about 10 years, bro.
Yes. So if at 220 I'm lean, right?
Yeah.
My goal is to be 230 or 235 lean. Would be a great accomplishment. And then next year be 235, 245, 250. I mean, I think my goal, and everybody has their own like number. It's not a numbers game. It's what you want to accomplish. But I think being 250 and lean with muscle mass would be amazing. Right?
Fucking
from my side,
huge. You would be
huge.
the goal for me always has been to be 100 kilos, so it's like 220 ish. That has always been the goal. Like from my start of training, the goal was to be 220 pounds or 100. It was always 100 kilos. It was never pounds, but it is now. To be that weight and to be lean. And I would say if I'm going to think August to August every year, which I imagine we'll just fall into that after that. We'll push calories for however long, and then we'll move into a deficit coming into that. Like if I could be 220 to 225 pounds lean at Vegas next year, that would have been a very successful year for us for coaching. And I know that now I'm talking about weight, and people's like, you talk about weight, blah, blah, blah. At the stage that I'm at, I know what that means to me and my body, so I'm not like super focused on whether weight loss or whatever else. Like I know that the process that I have to go through for that. So if I could be in that position and be lean, like I think I would look solid for sure. So that's the goal. That's what I want. That's what I want to achieve. But that means I am going to have to go to like 240 pounds or something fucking ridiculous. But
that's what you got to do.
Got to do what you got to do. Got to do what you got to do.
And I hope people understand, like, this is all just playing with our body mechanics and how it's designed, right? We have, and
also with need a caveat that people are not us and we're not each other. So like it's a levels thing. Do you know what I mean? I'm at the level now where I can know what I need to do to push, and I know that I'm not at the same stage that I was before, and the things that I have to do to push that are going to be slightly different. So it's not it's not a comparable thing. I also know my body, and I know what my limits are. I also know what my work capacity is. I also know how many hours of the cooking channel I need to watch. That could be the scheduled cardio on your end, like not actual minutes cardio, just like 3 hours of cooking shows across the week for fat loss.
Dude, you always crack me up. Like you'd be on like the bike, and you'd be like, I can smell what they're cooking right now, and it's like that's how you. But that works for you, that's what it's all about, right? And it's one of those things where it's like that continual ability of what works for you will not work for somebody else, right? Something that works for you is not going to work for me, and vice versa. But when you look at goals, our goal is obviously to get as big as we possibly can, while maintaining good blood work and healthy lifestyles and all of that good stuff that goes along with it to live longer, but also be strong as hell and look strong. If your goal is to be relatively lean with some size of muscle mass, it's great. I think what most people don't understand, though, and this is like some of the hardest things that it's hard for me to communicate to folks about, this, but I think your approach of what you typically do for new folks coming on board is the right one. People have to have success with weight loss, even if their body isn't there yet. From a muscle physique perspective, what a lot of people will say is, well, hey, I need to drop 20 pounds or 30 pounds or 40 pounds or whatever it ends up being. But when they lose that, they're like, well, why am I not shredded with massive muscles? Well, you haven't built it yet, right? You have a lot of fat, you lost the fat, but now you got to build the muscle. I wish I had the same knowledge as I did before, and I said, well, I'm just going to crank out being big, overweight for a year or 2 years or 3 years to build the right amount of muscle mass, and then shave it off and then have this great physique. But you don't have the discipline, self-control, the confidence in yourself, and all of the things that come along with that. So it's a little bit of a slower process while we learn ourselves, our body, what we're capable of, getting the right routines, mindset, consistency put into place, the foundational pieces that make all of this actually work and successful isn't because you're overweight. It's because you have to put the things in place to be able to get to these ebbs and flows to allow you to do it. So it's funny because you see a lot of the folks that came in that have gone through their first, surplus piece, and they're freaking out. You can see them in the chat, and then they lose the way and they go, "Oh, I'm okay." And it's funny because even as far as I progressed, I was worrying about that when I first started doing the surplus phase. You're like, okay, it's time for a cut. I'm like, and that day I was like, oh, mind switch, back at it, and like that was it. And then I lost the weight, right? It's just, it's natural now in just like how I walk and breathe and fracture my ankle running, like all that stuff's normal now. It's just like these things that occur on a regular basis. But it's cool to have that discipline and know that we're going to come out of this, looking jacked as hell. I'm just going to have to get over I don't fit in my, my tailored athlete, shirts that give me that massive looking physique, this cool muscular build, because I'm going to have this big gut sitting out there. Not a big gut, but it's not going to be as lean as I used to.
You're not going to be as comfortable as you are now.
Not going to be as comfortable.
And that's
comfortable is the right word.
That's where I always felt, essentially, whenever it came to it. Whenever I started to feel that like discomfort, I was like, no, this isn't for me. Like, fuck it, I just would rather be lean. Like, whenever and I know
it's
that,
so funny.
I know that's lean, coming.
Whenever I'm lean, I'm like, I wish I was big. And when I'm big, I wish I was lean. I'm going
to tell you a secret.
Yeah.
You're not the only one. That is a battle that I have been facing for the past 10 years. And I think it is across the board. I don't know whether it's a just you want what you don't have type situation, or it's the feeling of one versus the other, or the discomfort of one versus the other. So whenever you're bigger, you have the discomfort that the clothes don't necessarily, you're not as lean, so you don't feel as good about yourself, but you're strong, so you're like, this is fucking great. And then the opposite's true, where you feel good, your t-shirt sits nicely, but you're not necessarily strong. So I'm
at the beach sipping a cocktail, got my shirt off, I feel awesome. And then again inside, I'm like, man, I remember how much energy I had when I was eating all these calories, and like how strong I was and how much I shot up in gains. And like now I'm just like tired, and I just it's such an interesting dilemma, because it's that back and forth with yourself. And it would be cool as if like we had this magic button and we can go into like bulk mode for like a few hours, and then we can go into like, hey, now we're shredded again for the beach. That'd be amazing. But when I'm in a cutting phase and I'm lean, I'm like, man, I wish I was getting bigger, because I don't feel like I'm making as much progress, right? And you're not. If you're in a caloric deficit and you're losing weight, you're not able to put on as much muscle mass as if you were in a surplus. Now, it doesn't mean you can't build muscle in a deficit. If you're getting adequate protein amounts, it's just going to be maximized. Your body's going to be maximized for that, right? And if you're doing hard cutting, you're going to lose a percentage of muscle mass as part of that. So your gains and your strength is going to go down as you go through and do the cutting side. So it's like this dilemma of like, I want to look good without my shirt and have the confidence there, but I also want to be big and strong. So like, my mind is like, well, what do you want? I'm like, well, I want it all. Like, can I do all of it? Like tomorrow? Yes. Can I have tomorrow? So,
I will say this, even regardless of sort of where my head was at in the tail end of coaching the gyms, like after I did that shoot towards the end of last year, that was the first time in a long time that I didn't have the desire to be. Actually, it was whenever I was over there. It was just after the shoot. I was with you after, wasn't it? I came to Cleveland for a while after. Anyway, we did all Halloween stuff. So yes, that was the first time that I'm like, I was happy with how lean I was, and I was happy with how big I was. Not saying that I didn't want more, but I wasn't like constantly like, I want to be one or the other. So that was 9 years into training that got me there. Like I do want to be bigger and I do want to be leaner again, but I'm not like in that same like constant battle of like, I need to move from here to here. So I'm looking forward to pushing calories. As I said, time and time again, like it's one thing I wish I've had it done for a longer period of time whenever I was younger. Now is the opportunity to do that. And I also think it's cool that we'll be going through it at the same time. And we're not like, it seems to be that we've been doing it at opposite times. So whenever you have loads of food, I do not have a lot of food.
It's funny because like I'll be like, man, I'm sitting there eating like ass tons of food, and then you're sniffing, I'm
like making a fucking egg white omelet, and
driving by a like a fast food restaurant, getting your sniffs in,
Yeah,
but yeah.
But yeah, so I think that'll be another interesting part as well. Like I said, it'll be good to sort of be able to share it with everybody too. Obviously, as always, give them on other progress. And I guess good to share the struggles within as well, because I know that, as I said before, like getting lean for me is not difficult. So this will be something that I will struggle with, and it'll be interesting to see how you handle me struggling,
I'm excited about it.
and how we manage it. So yeah, good.
Yeah. Well, that was a good podcast, man. Get to cover back up. The last thing I wanted to ask you before we just cut out and be done, when you look at the reception you had from folks at DEF CON, as you continue to grow and scale, like, do you feel like you're continuously making progress with the industry, and like the new folks that you're bringing in, do they already have a level of understanding when they're coming in because they listen to the podcast and things like that, or is it just kind of all over the place? Like, what's the knowledge level of the folks that are coming in now since we've been trying to start this?
Yeah, as with anything, it's a bit of a mixed bag, but I do, whenever I have a conversation with people who have listened to, like, oh, listen to the podcast, I'll always ask them how many episodes that they've listened to, and if they're like, up to date, this is episode 104. Like, they have some level of knowledge, and I think that the best thing about that for me is they've actually listened, they've taken the knowledge in, they have an understanding of how I work, essentially, which I think is probably the best thing. Like, a lot of the comments and feedback that I get in the initial questionnaire, and where it says, why did you choose me? It's like, I like your method of thinking, or I like the way you approach things, or whatever it might be. So, that makes my life a little bit easier at the start. But there are some people who just, that's their first time their friend recommended the podcast or whatever. So it's a bit all over the place. But in answer to your question, like, of being in it and sort of seeing, like, this week was a reminder for me of, and I said this time and time again this year, like, this and what we're doing is much bigger than you and I, and to sort of have that, I guess, to have that reaffirmed in person. And it's not the case of I want to coach everybody who is a hacker or who everybody who goes to the conferences or whatever. It's what we do with the podcast, the information that we put out. I want that to help people, whether it's directly from them listening or somebody taking control of their life and then their friend or work colleague or partner or whatever. Like, the impact and the sort of ripple effect that it has beyond that. I can see it happening. And somebody said to me, I can't remember who it was, they were like, what we're doing with We Hack Health is still relatively early on. And in the grand scheme of things, it is. But in my head, I'm like, I mean, we did it for fucking ages. Like, we're almost at the bang on the 2-year mark, which is a super small amount of time.
Oh yeah.
And I think that you can agree with me, like, the momentum with it and the conversations and, how it's sort of spreading. Like, when we're having this conversation this time next year, I think it'll be a much different conversation, which is cool as well. And I guess on a sort of side note to that, I'm actually really looking forward. Matt's event is in Ibiza in like 3 weeks' time. I did get I don't know if you were in the conversation, but I did get my Vanguard coin. It was the first thing that I opened whenever I got back. So I am part of the elite crew.
That's awesome.
But I'm actually really looking forward to being able to share my story about coaching with other coaches, if that makes sense. I always remember there's a few, so essentially, not to completely derail the conversation, but he wants to do like an origins story, and he wants to use 4 photos that are like pivotal moments of your life or career that have led you to this point. And there's a couple that I think will be interesting. And there's a couple of times that, I've had a realization probably after the fact that was a huge moment in my career, and never did I think I'd be in a position to, number one, help at the scale, the amount of people that I do, but also be able to offer something back to other coaches in terms of like what's actually possible and what they can achieve. So being able to talk about that, and I think coming off the back of being away, doing the in-person stuff, seeing people in person, seeing the conference, like, it sort of all came to head in Vegas. So to be able to talk about that firsthand a couple of weeks after that, I think is going to be very cool. So in answer to your question, yes, I definitely see the knowledge increasing across the board. And I think the cool thing about it is having a space that we give the knowledge from our experience and sort of try and cut through the bullshit of all this stuff that's online, because it's not the people were knowledge poor, it's just they probably had too much knowledge and they didn't really know where to go with it. So actually being able to give them actionable tips that they've actually been able to do something, take control, lose weight, get to the gym, gain muscle, whatever their goal is, or whatever the thing is. It's been cool to see, for sure.
That's awesome. Well, you heard it here, everybody. And this is our first podcast back from Vegas and all the craziness, and Ben's first experience with Black Hat and DEF CON. So
Next week
he's
will
still
be
here. He
interesting.
hasn't
I
left
don't
the
know if
industry.
I haven't left the industry. I feel like I'm a fully fledged member now. I do have my lock picking kit and good to go. Next week's podcast will be an interesting one. We have a guest, and we're going to talk around nutrition and behaviors around nutrition. So like stress eating and things like that. And I think that will be a hugely beneficial episode to a lot of people. So catch us next week for that one.
See y'all later. Have a good one. Catch you next week.